The food genre most people agree on liking is dessert. It's a fact. Of course, dessert is a broad subject. You could be talking candy, pies, cake, pudding, anything. But I'm talking pie. Now among people, it's going to be harder to find people who agree on liking pie. But out of everyone, pie lovers and non-pie lovers, they will agree that it is the crust that really matters. Which is unfortunate because the crust is most often the most butchered part of a pie. I found an article once on a website called theall.com, and the author, Shorey, said that, basically, she said that she was going to teach you wimpy little girls how to make a pie. So, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to be a little bit nicer about it. So let's start with talking about how a pie crust is supposed to be. A good pie crust is flaky, tasty, and it complements the flavor of a pie. A bad pie crust is tough and it kind of has no taste whatsoever. It's like chewing cardboard. So we're going to start talking about the tools necessary. And what you need are a good work surface. You need a bowl, a pastry cutter, a pastry scraper, your measuring utensils, you're going to need a rolling pin, and your ingredients, and music. I think music is important anytime that you're baking because I think that it puts you in a better mood, and if you're in a bad mood, I think that that transfers into the food that you're cooking, and so no music equals tough crust in my book. But you also are going to need a good recipe, and I use Martha Stewart's Our Favorite Pie Crust recipe. I searched for this one specifically because it is a butter crust recipe, which is important because one of the most important parts of your pie crust is the fat that you use for it. Most people are going to use either butter or Crisco, which is shortening. I use butter because it's better for you and it's tastier, but the majority of people are going to use Crisco because it's easier. But I had to search for this butter recipe because it's better, and so that's what we're going to talk about. When you have your ingredients, it's really important that they are ice cold. And I was always curious about this because I never really fully understood the reason for having ice cold ingredients, and that includes your flour. And so I looked it up, and I found on a website called What's Cooking America that the reason a crust is flaky is when your unmelted bits of fat, which in our case is butter, is layered between layers of flour and is melted while baking. And if you have things that are too warm, then the flour will absorb too much of the fat and you have a tough crust. So, what you're going to start with, in the recipe that I use flour, sugar, salt, butter, and ice water. And after you put in your flour, sugar, and salt, you're going to cut in your butter. I just use a regular old pastry blender, but also on that What's Cooking America website, I found a really nifty little trick that I'm going to use next time, and that's to take your frozen butter and use a cheese grater to grate it into your bowl, into your flour mixture. And I think that'd probably make things a lot easier. But the way I do it is just with my pastry blender, and I go ahead and cut my butter into about pea-sized pieces, and no smaller, because you want those bits of fat. And then after that, you add in your liquid. And what's really important about your liquid is if you don't have anything else cold, your liquid better be ice cold. So I just use ice water, but I looked it up and I found a website, allrecipes.com, and I found an article on their website, and they said that you can use almost anything for a liquid. You can use milk, sour cream, fruit juices, egg yolks, almost anything. I even found a website once that called for vodka, which is not something I've tried, but it sounds interesting. When you put in your liquid, you want it just enough to moisten it. You don't want to drench it. If you have it too wet, then you're going to need to put in more flour. Once you're done with that, go ahead and put it out on your work surface, put it into a disc shape, and you're going to cover it with plastic wrap and throw it in the fridge for about an hour or longer. If you need more time, put it in the freezer for a few minutes. When you're ready, take it out. You're going to put it on a lightly floured work surface. I just have a stainless steel work surface, and that works better than the countertop or the wooden table. You want to roll it out really, really thin, which is something that I'm still working on, but the thinner the better. And then you want to transfer that into your pie plate, and you may have some excess dough. The good thing about that is you can make pie crust cookies, and you just bake that on a cookie sheet with cinnamon sugar on it. That's one of my favorite things to eat. afterwards, after you have it into your pie plate, what you're going to wonder, depending on your pie recipe, you're going to need either baked or unbaked. I just use Better Homes and Gardens, and I follow their directions for baking the pie. It's just 8 minutes in a 450-degree oven with a double layer of aluminum foil because it keeps it from shrinking, and then 5 more minutes after that. And you just follow your recipe depending on what they tell you to do. I wasn't able to make a pie crust while I talked because I wouldn't have had enough time, but I went ahead and made a pie crust earlier, and this is a finished pie crust. It's not pretty, but I think it'll taste good. I hope it'll taste good. So I hope today that I taught y'all how to make a pie crust, and I hope that I saved your fears, and I hope I did it in a much nicer way than Shorey did. And I hope that y'all now have the confidence to go out and make your own. And as a thank you for my audience tonight, I am going to put a pie in that pie crust and let y'all have some of it. So, if anyone has any questions, I'd like to take those. Yes?
What kind of pie are you going to put in that pie crust?
Well, my favorite is key lime, and that does go into a baked pie crust. There are restrictions. It has to be pie that calls for a baked pie crust. But the options are pretty much limitless other than that. Yes?
When you said that you would shred your butter on a cheese grater,
Mm-hmm.
do you find that a lot of the butter remains on the cheese grater and you actually do not get the full measurement of your butter that you're called for?
I don't know, actually. I haven't tried it yet, and so it's something that I want to try with my next pie crust, and I'll let you know.
I want you to let me know because I think that is really cool.
I thought it was too. Alright, well, I'm going to go ahead and show my wonderful audience, and here they all are.